Today we take a look into the future, from new Slayer bosses, and what undoubtedly looks to be a lack of Slayer levels, a lack of any RNG drop whatsoever. Even despite the update almost seemingly ready to go, the release of the City project almost confirms that. However, the lack of incentive for anyone to donate again to the City project kind of makes me think that they know what they're doing. And maybe it's not all that it seems, and maybe this update isn't ready. I mean, the items are already in the game. If we literally just type in Rift necklaces are already in the game. Of course we can't access them, but if you click onto it you can see all the crafting recipes. A Hedgehog spine? It's not something we can possibly obtain at the moment. And the same with these. I don't even know how to pronounce these. Shy Crooks? Obviously not obtainable outside of the Rift. Now that makes me want to think that the update is ready to go. However, from the last time the alpha server was open with the Rift available, the readiness is kind of hard to believe. However, no other Slayer has been released with 5 levels to progress through and 5 tiers of the boss. And of course, alpha is alpha for a reason, and the Rift hasn't been on the alpha for probably like a month now. I feel like the concepts of the Rift and the design initially got a lot of Hypixel SKyblock players really excited. Of course, the alpha server opened, and if you were patient enough, you could actually play the full update before release. I mean, that's pretty cool. However, the more you think about it, with the Rift being a completely separate dimension, therefore not directly progressing your actual profile, it's obviously a lot to digest and completely different to anything else that we've seen. Of course, the positives are, well, it's completely different to anything we've ever seen before, and it shows that Hypixel is eager to progress Skyblock. At the same time, players have definitely got the right to be skeptical. Features such as only having a certain amount of time in the Rift is a little bit strange. The fact that you have to travel to a new dimension to actually do the new Slayer is also very weird. And honestly, Barry's giving Dante vibes. Also a little bit strange. Now before we do go any further, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, then make sure to use code NITROS, it gets you 5% off. Also, you should subscribe to the channel, become part of the 24%, there's no reason not to. We are in touching distance of 50k, so make sure you do subscribe. Finally, you should join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of every single video. Now, I don't know about you, this could just be me, but I feel like hype surrounding this update has kind of died. And honestly, I think there's various different reasons. First of all, when the update was released on the alpha, I personally think it was a little bit underwhelming. Of course, there are some nice new features that we haven't seen before, but for the most part, they're just kind of cosmetic. When we think back to past updates like the Crimson Isles, or if you cast your mind even further back to the addition of the End, or pretty much any other update within Skyblock, it becomes obviously apparent that they're releasing the Rift in a different way. A new update isn't usually released in the form of a City project, and I think some players are finding that a little bit hard to cope with. Not only that, for players that couldn't get onto the Rift, I think there's still quite a lot of uncertainty as to how the Rift actually works. I think players are worried that they're going to be able to obtain items on the Rift but then not transfer them back. And this might lead some players to think, well, wouldn't the Rift update maybe be more suited to a different game mode? Maybe like its own game mode like Iron Man or Stranded. But of course that's all speculation. The reality is, if this meter filled all the way to 100%, then in theory the update should release. Maybe it's just a lack of incentivization from whoever's designed this, or maybe it's just that people simply aren't really too bothered about the Rift. Likely is probably a combination of the two. Now, this is my main concern. The City project started not long after the Rift was last on the alpha, and from my point of view, the main point of interest within the Rift will definitely be Vampire Slayer, without a doubt. Everything else looks cosmetically cool. Obviously there might be more features, but yeah. Of course, Time Deal released this footage of basically Vampire Slayer, basically just a showcase. However, within that video, we saw Vampire Slayer and that was pretty much it. Now, this video that was released about a month ago shows a lot more from someone called Minddoll. It's a similar thing where it's showcasing Vampire Slayer. However, here we can see there's only 5 levels of Vampire Slayer. Usually, there's 9 levels to a Slayer. Of course, this means usually when you level up your Slayer, that's when you can actually, well, have the ability to drop better items, i.e. the RNGs. And when you take a look at the best items you can possibly get, there isn't even an RNG. Like I said earlier in the video, this is just on the alpha server. However, like I said, with the City project being up and a lot of items already being in the game, that would sort of indicate that the update is ready to go once the City project is filled. And judging from the time difference between the alpha server and having Rift on the alpha and the city project, it leaves very little time. It also makes me think, well, if they already had plans for maybe going up to Vampire Slayer 9, or even 7, you know, unleashing more drops, i.e. RNGs, then why was it not on the alpha? Considering, you know, you would have thought they would have already had it ready. I don't know. It seems a little bit strange to me. Now at this point it probably sounds like I'm being completely pessimistic, but let's think about the current state of Hypixel's server. For the past 3 to 4 weeks, in fact, you know what, scratch that, longer, way longer. I'd say maybe 2 or 3 times a day I get kicked off the server. Sometimes I can't rejoin for up to half an hour and sometimes it's only 5 minutes. I've talked about this multiple times before and I know it's not just me who's incurring these issues. Now I recently started a new Iron Man profile, and on that Iron Man profile I've been spending a lot of time in the end. Now a good few weeks ago the Crimson Isles servers were absolutely terrible in terms of TPS, things like Blaze Slayer and everything else going on in there at the same time sort of made it impossible to actually do anything at all. Some of you may have heard that to solve that issue they basically just took some of the servers from the end and put the Crimson Isles on there, which obviously means that the end has taken a hit. It may be fine at the moment, but trust me, when that dragon spawns, it is unplayable. You're lucky to even hit the dragon, and you're only saving graces if you pre-fire the egg. Which leads me to think, with Vampire Slayer, and all the animations that are going on in the end in terms of like the spider's webs and also the mirroring aspect, honestly in alpha it played relatively okay, but of course it's different on alpha. There's nowhere near as many people on the server, meaning that usually it makes for a smoother experience. Now, I don't know how bad these servers are going to be once it releases. However, it's got to be something that's considered given the server health on pretty much every other server in the game. Okay, just as I was talking, do you recognise anything? Do you recognise any difference? Literally about 5 minutes ago this said 64% and now it says 95%. So they've literally just lowered the requirement to what, like 1.1 million? Which means that this update is going to be coming out soon. Wow, okay, interesting. Yeah, I literally just scrambled to tell my guild that this is coming out soon, but anyway, yeah, alright, well, everything I've said in this video, I guess we're going to find out about a lot sooner. See, the contributions haven't changed, but yeah, I don't know, interesting. That's literally just happened now when I'm recording the video. I don't know, when this video releases, the update might even be out. And if so, I guess a lot of my questions have probably been answered. But let me know in the comments, are you excited for this update, are you looking forward to it, or have you just got bored waiting? If you did enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.